Okay. Good evening. April 17th, Astro Cafe. Let's get going. Before we get into it, I know Randy has a few things he wants to speak of, and we also have David Lee with some SIG related items. Has Lauri shown up yet? In person or virtually?
No.
Okay. Well, we can jump in when she arrives in either virtual or real form. And so, is there anyone else, now that we've gotten going, anyone else that has anything that they want to speak about or show pictures or do anything interesting tonight?
Come on, somebody's got a picture to show us.
The weather has been really, really uncooperative. So
That means you've been processing, doesn't it?
yeah.
Is Bill
No,
here?
it means that I've purchased equipment and now we're paying for it.
Oh, it's rent.
That's
It's
it's the usual
David's-
thing, right?
David's
I
done
wouldn't
to
mind
us.
mentioning a book that I just finished reading too.
Okay, Ron.
Book review. Love it, Ron.
Well, it's not much of a book review because my memory is not all that great, but it's a really interesting book.
Okay. Excellent. Well, why don't we get Randy to kick us off with, he's got, I think, 3 different items he wanted to get to. Randy, you could pick one at random and.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start before I share my screen. You got to see my get up. This is my science fair nerdy. Am I? Yeah. There we go. Anyway,
That's good.
my kids call me Captain Torque at home because I'm the one that opens the pickle jars, and so then Eva made me this logo, and then my daughter made this tie, and I like to wear it on nerdy days like today because it was the 61st Vancouver Island Regional Science Fair yesterday and today, and Dorothy and Lauri did a wonderful job talking to many kids, and they decided that we were going to give 3 prizes. An honorable mention to this quite young student who measured the period of a pendulum of different lengths and figured that the acceleration due to gravity is 9.5 meters per second, not 9.8. And then she gave all sorts of ideas, like maybe gravity has changed since the textbooks were written, but it would be different if she did it on the moon or on Mars. And anyway, on that basis, she was awarded a special mention. And when I talked to her and her mother about the possibility of giving a talk to us, they were so excited. And I think she's very enthusiastic, and I think we will have a nice time seeing her give a talk. And then there were 2 extremely impressive projects, and it looks like we're probably going to have to wait until the new year after the summer to get them to talk, just because they have a lot to do right now. But Nathan, our friend Nathan Messelman Hellner, took spectra from various supernova 1As out there, about 100, and fit the hydrogen emission lines, worked out the red shifts, and did analysis on his own. And it was very impressive. And so we'll get him to give that talk. And then the other one actually came top in fair he built a double dipole radio telescope and saw when I never knew about this, when Io goes around Jupiter, when it's either as far to the left or as far to the right, you know, a quadrature is what I mean. Then it puts out this burst of radio energy. And he was able to see it with this very homemade equipment. And just wonderful. And we're in good hands. Anyway, he does go up to the center of the universe to do outreach with the friends. I should remember his name, but he's at what school? Is he also at Mount Doug?
No,
Anyway.
yeah, I think you're thinking of Evan.
Evan.
At
yes,
Oak Bay.
he's in Oak Bay. Really cool kid. So, and then there was one more. I'm going to share my screen. One more prize that I wish to tell you about. And it is me. I got a Distinguished Service Award from Youth Science Canada. So this is a Canada-wide prize for my work with the science fair. So I was president of the society that runs the Vancouver Island Regional Science Fair for 10 years before I came over to the RASC. And beside me are Jerry Polton, who was one of the first people in Canada that was honored with a Distinguished Service Award. And then on my left is Rossi Marks, who was our fair chair, and she received one about 5 or so years ago. And I'm so chuffed. Okay, so that was the first topic, is science fair.
David, did you have a question?
No, that's an applause.
Oh, sorry, it looked like a hand.
I really am chuffed about this one. Okay, so the next thing that I want to bring up is Karina Okadal, who was the editor of Sky News, and she wrote to the presidents that she is starting a new website. It's going to be called Astronomy by Night. And it's going to have a lot of content in common with the old Sky News. So, you know, Charles Ennis is going to be in there, Alan Dyer and Chris Vaughn are going to be in there every issue of it. So she's looking forward to rebuilding this Canadian publishing institution, but this will be completely web-based. I don't know what she's doing for income, but I'm sure that's going to be part of it. And she would love to talk to Astro Cafe, and it looks like I should invite her for next week if we're going to ever have her. Okay.
Or May the 1st.
Or May for the 1st. Anyway, there will be more news about this. So Astronomy by Night coming to a computer or portable device near you.
It looks like it's actually already there. I just
It's a
Entered it
soft
in.
launch. It's at a soft launch level. I think it hasn't gone hard launch yet.
Okay.
Unless she just did it.
well, there's a website there.
There's a
Some.
website.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, it's got some content on it.
It
so-
does.
So now we're going to talk about JUICE. Did anybody wake up Friday morning to watch the launch of this new spaceship? I'm the only one.
No, I attempted, I saw nothing.
You saw nothing.
It didn't work.
Anyway, this is the European Space Agency's most recent planetary satellite. It's huge. It's funny. It is only something like 150 kilos of payload, but then it's got these huge, like 85 square meter solar panels and these very long booms that are like 30 meters. And this picture of it, which I just love, was they did a big competition for children to design the picture that would go on the fairing, on the protective cover for the launch. And they got something like 3,000 submissions from something like 80 countries. And this 8-year-old girl did this entirely cute picture of the Earth handing Jupiter this toy. And the icy moons, so Ganymede, Europa, and Callisto kind of hanging around. So this was my screenshot from the watching it on my phone. Nice and early on Friday morning. They tried on Thursday morning to launch, and just minutes before they said, nope, too much risk of lightning. Apparently the things that can stop a launch are high winds and threat of lightning. And so just 15 minutes or so before launch on Thursday, they scrubbed it. And the next morning, it went up into the air, and all the emotion and everything that went along with it. I just love watching these launches. Why are they going to Jupiter? Well, it's beautiful. It's an amazing planet filled with fantastic properties. So what are some of the things about Jupiter? It's got something like 90% of the angular momentum of the solar system. It's got this incredible chemistry in its atmosphere that make these bands. There's the Great Red Spot. It's got a huge magnetic field and auroras, and it's kind of endlessly interesting. And we can see it from Earth beautifully. So Lucky Bud is a member that just took this picture back in September. And then the other thing about it, anybody with binoculars or bigger has seen the 4 Galilean moons. Not many people have caught a double trajectory, a double, what's the word for this? A double transit like John did back in 2020. Congratulations on this set of pictures. But these 4 moons, the Galilean moons, discovered in 1610. I love the story of Galileo putting the telescope to the sky, seeing 10 times or 100 times as many stars as anybody else in the history of humankind. And the next day notices that 3 of them have moved. It blows my mind to think of how amazing was his challenge of looking at something completely new and realizing this is important. This is telling us how the universe works. And we are still figuring out how the universe works looking at Jupiter. So let's talk a bit about these moons. Notice that we're talking about the icy moons. JUICE's Jupiter Icy Moon Explorer is not going in to look at Io. I gather one of the main reasons is it is so much radiation. Like even when JUICE is going to get close to Europa, it's enough radiation to kill you 20 times over. and they have to put in all this hardened hardware in there in order for it to work, just to see Europa. To put a probe, a flyby of Io will be that much more difficult. But we have these 3 icy moons, and they are night and day from each other. You go from the very young surface, very active Europa, with all its beautiful cracks and stripes and things. And then Ganymede, which is kind of in the middle. I mean, not just literally, but also in terms of properties. But when you go to Callisto, it is the most cratered, oldest surface object in the solar system. It's also Ganymede. One of the things about Ganymede is it's bigger than Mercury. It's huge, and it's the only moon that has its own magnetic field. And it has its own auroras. There's some interesting stuff going on in Ganymede. So, a worthy target. So what just happened? It was supposed to launch in 2022, but COVID and some equipment wasn't ready. And so the next window was April. So it flew over to Guyana. It was built in Germany. Actually, it was built in France, and then it was tested in Germany, and then it went back to France. It was built by Airbus. Then it went to launch. It launched on Friday. And then it's big. You know, there's only maybe 150 kilos of payload, but a lot of fuel. I think it's 900 kilos of fuel is going up there, and most of that is just to slow it down once it gets to Jupiter. So, you know, it takes a lot of energy to get it on its way there, and it then takes a lot of energy to stop it. So there's going to be, I'm looking forward to this, a lunar Earth flyby in a bit over a year. And so what that means is it's actually a lunar flyby. It's going to go really, like hundreds of kilometers from the moon. And it gets to try out all its equipment on our moon before it goes and sees Jupiter's moons. Then a year later, so it basically goes around the sun each time it does one of these flybys, and it gets a gravitational assist each time. So then it's going to get pulled by Venus, and then it's going to get 2 more Earth flybys. Had it gone in 2022, then there was going to be a Mars flyby, but Mars isn't in the right spot. But then we have to wait till July 2031. You don't do this sort of mission looking for instant gratification. From conception to the end of the mission, we're talking 30 years. So there's not going to be a lot of people who started it who see it at the end. Anyway, it arrives at Jupiter. It's going to burn more than half of its mass in fuel to slow it down. And then it's going to take another 3 years doing all these flybys. So it's going to go close to Europa a couple of times, and by Callisto rather more times. And each time, it's instead of doing a gravitational assist to speed it up, it's going to use it in the backward sense. So it's basically going to give its angular momentum to those moons rather than steal it from the planets to get out there. And then there's a really cool time where it's going to go quite vertical. It's going to go over the north and south poles of Jupiter. And so that's really important, so that they can eventually get into a polar orbit of Ganymede. And then by being in a polar orbit of Ganymede, it's going to just settle down and be for 3 years flying around Ganymede, giving it total global coverage. I'm not going to dwell on this. It's not you really have to see a YouTube of it to see how this works, but basically it launches from the Earth, goes around the sun once, gets a gravitational assist from Venus, goes around the Earth again, gets a gravitational assist from the moon. Oh, no, it's first moon, then Venus, then Earth, flyby one, and it goes on a big orbit all the way out as far as Mars, but it's not going to see Mars because it took it too long before that window worked. And then it's going to come back to the Earth and then get one more zoom and fly up over years. And, you know, they're actually going to lay off a bunch of staff because they got to save some money. And so then they have to train a whole bunch of new people to use the instruments and wake them up to go back to Jupiter. It's crazy. One more picture, just a kind of idea of flying by the Earth, flying by the Venus, flying by Earth. It's a game of billiards. It's crazy. And they had a 1 second window each day. So it was supposed to be at 5:15, I don't know how many seconds on Thursday. When they scrubbed that, it was at 5:14 the next day. It's very, very, very precise so that they can get all these things to work. Anyway, then it's going to get out to Jupiter, and then it's going to do these flybys of Europa and Callisto, and it ends up just going around Ganymede. It'll be the first time that a Earth spaceship, satellite, whatever, is going to orbit another planet's moon. 10 instruments, arguably 11. So this is just a blow up of this infographic. Oh, I love this. Janus is the name of its camera. Why is it called Janus? Look at this. Are you coming? There we go. Jovis amorum acnatorum udiquis rutator, which means comprehensive observation of Jupiter, his love affairs and descendants.
That's fabulous.
Isn't that super? So what else? So that's optical camera. There's for visible and infrared spectrometer to work out what gases are, making up the Great Red Spot. They still haven't figured that one out. UV is going to look at things like the aurora and lightning and things like that, the higher energy. Submillimeter means infrared, so looking at the temperature of Jupiter and the moons. RIME, that's not an acronym. I mean, it is an acronym for something, but it is the ice penetrating radar. It's going to go down 9 kilometers through the ice and see where water is. And RIME, if you know, is the form of ice that sublimates on. Oh, I see Chris nodding. You must know a lot about RIME up in Nunavut. Anyway, it's this kind of crystalline ice that forms on rocks and things. And so it's an excellent name for that instrument. TRIDE is a super, it's got a very high precision oscillator, and it'll look at accelerations and it'll work out the changes in gravity as it flies around. GALA stands for Ganymede Laser Altimeter. It will be useful during the flybys, but it's really to take a look at the shape of Ganymede and how it changes over those years. 3GM, do I remember what that one is? Not really. Radio Science Experiment. I don't remember what that does. JMAG is Jupiter magnetometer. This is one of the big ones because it was because of the magnetometer on before Galileo was one of the other ones. No other planetary buffs up there. Chris is not able to come tonight. He said he wouldn't be able to help. Anyway, it was because of the magnetometer going around Europa that they realized that there's a water layer underneath it. PEP is going to look at plasma in the Jupiter Ganymede system because they both have their own magnetic fields. There's some crazy interactions of the plasma going around. And radio plasma wave instruments also doing similar stuff, but it's got a radar. It's more active, not passive. And I'm just going to close with this sloth that was caught, photographed right close to the launch, and this was like 2 minutes and 50 seconds before the launch. They showed this picture. I think the picture was from before, but they were just showing, this montage. Anyway, it got a lot of publicity, this sloth. And so somebody made this logo, Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, that's JUICE, ad Jovem lente, so to Jupiter slowly, which I think is perfect. And with that, I open the floor to questions. There's so much to talk about this mission, but we get to watch for a long time. Bill, what was that you posted?
It's a link to where you can buy t-shirts or stickers or fridge magnets with that sloth thing on it.
It's so good. And that was just somebody put it together since Friday.
It's Tanya Harrison, the Mars geologist. Marjie knows who she is. She's spoken at many things. And she's also an artist. So she has a site on Redbubble where you can buy stuff from her.
That's awesome. Thank you, Bill. John, can you tell us anything about your double transit photos?
Hi, it's a while ago since I took those. The double transits like that happen from time to time, not super frequently, but often enough that you can get them. What I really appreciated about that one is that if you look closely, you can actually see the planets on Jupiter, as well as seeing the shadows when they come out. So it's kind of fun. It's fun to do that. It takes a little patience, and you have to keep your eye on the information about when that's just going to happen to do it. But
and did you with film?
That's enough. I mean,
was that done with a color camera?
it was done with a one of these monochrome high-speed video cameras and filters, and then the colors were put together afterwards.
Yeah, that makes it far more challenging.
That's a lot
That's
of work.
crazy.
John, when
That's-
was this?
2020.
Okay.
I'll show you the beginning
Okay,
of the,
okay,
of the
sorry,
presentation.
sorry. Well,
Yeah, that's epic imaging.
Mhm.
I made a short video of that too, but I don't know that I could find it quickly. But it's interesting to watch it in a video to see the shadows go across and then the moons pop out for me, in front of the planet. It's on Zenfolio somewhere.
Does anyone else have questions for Randy? Okay, looks like David Lee also had some SIG related news or
Yeah, I do.
requests.
Has Lauri arrived?
Lauri
Yeah.
does
Seen.
appear to be there, so we could.
Oh, there she is. Oh,
Yeah.
hi.
I have a note for Lauri to hopefully give us an update on.
Yeah, that's
IAD.
great. Well, let me talk about the SIGs first. The first SIG that arrives this week is astrophotography, I think. Isn't it right, Dave? Dave's not, I can't hear.
I think it's, might be next week.
Oh, it's next, it's the 4th? Oh, okay.
The fourth Wednesday.
So,
Yeah.
sorry. So that won't be the next week. Okay, so the one that's this week, and I think Michelle is on board right now. Michelle has a little story to tell us for the Makers Group this Thursday. Is that right, Michelle?
Sure, which one?
I don't remember which one now. You had a couple of things that you. Well, anyways, you
That's
talk
why I
about
had
whatever
a
you
couple
want.
things, so,
Yeah, you
so
can
I
talk
got
about whatever you
the,
want.
I got the Apple mask. I got
Ah,
my,
that's what it was.
I got my project on Python for the supernovae. What I did after that, I don't know.
You could do the appetizing mask, or if you have time, you can do the Python stuff too.
Well, I can do a bit of both. Sure.
Okay.
So, because the Apple mask is not going to be really long.
Okay.
It's
So
gonna be
that's
really
so
short.
those are the two things for the Makers Group. Michelle's going to talk about the appetizing mask he made, and also some interesting Python code that he wrote.
Nice to see you, Michelle.
So that is this Thursday that is coming.
I think so. I don't know. Jim is on board right now, but Jim will be sending out a notice for this Thursday.
Okay. I don't need to present to do anything for the Python. I'm just going to take the software and just to run the.
Oh yeah, you could just describe it. We'll probably ask you some questions.
Yeah, it is. But the Apple, I will just have a couple slides about the history. I can't remember, but I saw that. I think it was in the Sky News, right? I'm not sure
Yeah,
if it was.
I think so.
I don't know if it was the main Sky News or the Victoria Sky News, but it was somewhere.
Yeah, I know Bill's talked about appetizing masks
Oh,
before.
I think it's
right?
Bill, yeah. So
Yeah.
I kept that and I did some research and I said, oh, I'm gonna do it. And I did it and it worked.
There you go.
It was in the journal a long time ago.
I know, I found
Ernie
that, and I kept it, and
Fanich-Schmidt article.
Yeah, it is,
Ah.
and I had a lot of doubt, and I said, there's probably a filter or something that is doing a better job than that, and you know what? I got really nice results for double stars.
Nice.
There you go. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Michelle, is your observatory up and running?
Oh yeah, it's been running for, I don't know, a year and a half, yeah.
That's great.
You know what is really good is, since I did the first T point, I didn't do anything. It's like the target all the time in the center. The only thing I didn't do, I try is to match the 91 with the 14 to be really center on both. And I got the best, it's because the temperature is moving so much. So I'm basically about maybe, I would say, worst case, about a minute offset. So it doesn't take long. So, but normally what I do, I work with the 94, with the 91 on the all night, or I work on the 14 on during the all night. I don't really swap both scopes. So at the beginning of the day, I start with one scope, I do the full calibration, and after that, I'm set up for the all night.
John, you had a question. Do you, John?
Not on this topic, but I found that video of the
Okay.
the planets going by and making the shadows on the moon. So I can show that later if there's a slot.
All right. Anyways, thanks, Michelle. And that's all I've got. So I thought Astrophoto was this week, but it's next week.
Mhm. Okay. Lauri, do you have some International Astronomy Day news
Sure.
or
Can everybody hear me? I'm not sure whether I'm coming through.
I can hear
All
you.
right, okay. So we're just about there, ready for International Astronomy Day. I have got people surrounding me here who are going to be helping, which is going to be great. we are at UVic from 11 until 4 on Sunday, April the 30th. So if any of you are not already booked to kind of to do some work at volunteering, and I see some names there already volunteering, but if you're not and you'd like to volunteer, we still have absolutely some spots, so we'd love to have you come along. Free parking in lot number 1 right across from the building, so that's really a bonus for us. We'll have lots of different organizations coming in, and what's especially good is we've got three high schools coming in from the 3 different groups that have got astronomy clubs, and so that's a bonus. And we also then have Shawnigan Lake coming down again. The students always that come down from Shawnigan Lake are always really interesting to talk to, is they have their own telescope up and they do a lot of astrophotography and things up there. We also have Camosun College coming in to help with the solar telescopes, and Alex will be outside. Hopefully it will be a nice day, right, Alex?
It should be.
It should be. There you go. Thank you. And then inside, Bill is going to be not only just showing some of the telescopes and things out, but he's also going to be a telescope medic this year. So we're going to be putting on and advertising that if you'd like to bring down a HERT telescope, that people will be there to help out and have a look at them, or if you want to ask questions or kind of get in contact. So that's going to be a little bit of fun this year to do something a bit different. We have seven speakers that are going to be, thank you, 7 speakers that are going to be offered between 11:30 and 3 to 3:30, kind of depending on the timing, so that every half hour, on the half an hour and on the hour, we'll have different people. We've got people from HIA or HAA, I should say. We've got UVic master's students. We have our very own David Lee. We have our very own John McDonald, and our very own Nathan Hellner-Mestelman is going to be also speaking as well. So a really wide variety of speakers. So please come and join us. We'll be in the A104 lecture hall. So it will just be like old times. So just when we were there before. The one thing that I would ask that I really need some help with, and I'm hoping somebody here will volunteer to help me with this, is we're going to be able to have the lab, one of the astronomy labs that's right kind of opposite the A104 lecture theater. It's just kind of in the little hall that's on the side. They have allowed us to use those rooms, and one of them is going to be used for the UVic students to show us some spectroscopy, because they've got all that set up in the lab, so they can show us that. And then the other one is going to be a very big 75-inch TV screen that we can set up as for a planetarium program. And right now, I don't have somebody who is reasonably confident with either Stellarium or Sky Safari or one of the planetarium programs that could just simply talk to people as they come in and kind of show some of the constellations and do a little bit of some storytelling. What I'm thinking, we've always done this with Bruno, but we've had a screen right there in the middle of the room. But we don't have that this year. We can't get that happening up at UVic, so we're just kind of just down the hall in the and it will be nice and dark. So it will be really nice to be able to see everything in the dark. But I need a person who wouldn't mind. I mean, even if I could just even have 2 or 3 half-an-hour sessions to say that that's going to be happening at 11:30 and 1 and 2:30, that kind of thing, that would be really helpful. So it's the one thing that I'm still missing, and would love to have somebody help me with that.
Yeah, so we should write that to RASC.
Yes, okay, and get something out as there's not as many people on here, and the Sky News
Go
group.
put it out to everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so that would be really helpful. And as I said, if you're not already volunteering for something, I'd love to have you We'd love to have you come along. Just give me an email or David an email, and we'll get something set up. David made this poster for us. Thank you so much, David. We had to kind of do a little bit of shape shifting with this a little bit, a couple of changes. Thank you, Chris, for helping with putting some different things on. But I think it's pretty it's pretty thorough, and it also shows what we're doing on April the 29th, which is our first FDAO Star Party on the Saturday night before. We'll be up at the center doing some of our regular things that we do for star parties, and having our welcome table up. And if it's a nice night, then we hope that people would come and put their telescopes up for some help there. And we're having a gentleman, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name and I can't read that small print in front of the gentleman coming from the East Coast, who's done a whole lot of work on mega constellations and all the ramifications of some of the things from Starlink and everything. So he's going to be telling us a lot more about that. He's done some quite significant.
Jonathan McDowell.
Jonathan McDowell, thank you. Yeah, so he'll be online. So it will be online on that night. So that he will be streamed into the auditorium. But we're also going to have it on YouTube and streamed on Zoom. So if you can't come up to the center, then you can also join us in for the program. So lots of things going on. We're hoping that everybody will be able to come in for at least a little bit, either on the Saturday night or the Sunday afternoon. So thanks to everybody that's been putting in a lot of work, especially David.
And especially
Actually, I do have a request for people to help. So for all the leads that are on Astronomy Day on Sunday, if you wouldn't mind maybe coming up with a 2 to 3 sentence kind of catchy teaser for us, because what we'd like to do is actually start populating social media. So we want to start off just with a little bit right now, but we want on the last week, we want to sort of fill the airwaves with stuff on it.
Okay.
So if you could help, let me know. Or actually, I'm just speaking to the leads. If the leads could come up with 2 to 3 sentences about your area for the event, that would be great.
Bill's already handed in his. So.
Yeah, I've already got that. Bill's is really good. His medic one is really good.
Okay, thanks everybody.
John has a question, and
Yes.
Jim was asking if the poster is ready for printing.
The poster is printed.
Good
And
segue.
why I'm here this evening is because I brought copies to give to people. So the poster has been printed, and so I'm going to be giving out copies right up to the camera, right up there. There's the poster, and we do have it in color, and we have a few copies in the black and white as well. So if anybody has got a place where they think that it could go, like for instance, I'm going to put it up at the Commonwealth. I'm going to put one up at the Commonwealth Pool.
Yeah,
because
and the library there
and the
too.
library there. And if anybody else has got another space, we'll make sure that you get them to put up. So yes, Jim, would you like me to get you a copy?
Well, particularly, do you have one posted in the mail room at DAO?
No, I haven't been up to DAO. I'm going tomorrow morning.
Excellent, that's
So it will
good.
be there. It will be there tomorrow morning. Yes, and there'll be a couple of copies, definitely, and going up at the center of the universe as well. So, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauri. John McDonald had his hand up for.
Yeah, just a quick question, Lauri. I noticed on the poster that there's free parking, which is wonderful. Is that in any of the lots nearby?
Should be all campus wide.
It should be campus wide.
It's Sunday. It's Sunday. Yeah.
Lot number 1 is the one that's right across the street.
There's also a parking lot right beside.
Okay, thanks. I've forgotten about the Sunday business.
Sorry, the
That's
one-
good.
The one beside the building is still has
Oh, is there?
fencing around it.
Yeah,
like-
I understand.
So it may be open.
Might be gone by
It
then.
might be gone, like, we'll have to see if it's right there beside, that would be fabulous,
I
but,
don't know if that's reserved.
okay, okay.
The other question I have is the poster available online also?
Yeah, so the thing with the poster, I've got 4 different versions. I've got a small, medium, and large for the web, and the large one that's used for printing is very dense, so it's very large. I wouldn't necessarily put that on the web, but the small, medium, and large, anybody can have access to it. Just let me know, and I'll give you access to it.
I would certainly like to have access.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
I can add you to the list, Jim, if you'd like, to all 4 if you want.
I'd like to get one too,
Where else did we put it out?
David.
Yeah, okay, okay, so John and Jim, okay.
Me too.
I just want one that I can send around to friends via email.
Then, yeah, you can just pick the one. I actually have a note that goes along with the 4 formats for their recommended use. So I'll give you access to all 4 files, but I have some recommendations of how they're used.
Thank
David,
you.
could we put it out just to the RASC membership?
That would be, I don't know if I could do that actually with my Dropbox.
I think you need an email address, so you need people to contact David Lee.
Yeah, just contact me and I'll make sure you have access somehow.
Okay.
Did
David,
everybody-
I would like one as well. Margie?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, any places you can find something to put, you can print it out yourself or get it up on the social media, and anything, sharing is what we need.
Yeah.
So once it goes up, it needs to be shared, so.
Yeah, so the posters themselves actually have QR codes on them as well. For up-to-date information, we're expecting people to go either to the URLs or to the QR codes. Because we're not going to be updating the poster anymore. It's static now.
Yeah.
But all the dynamic stuff or all the changes are going to be on the websites.
Like today, we got another whole set of information for one of the speakers that we didn't have before, so it's that kind of thing. It'll be just, we'll just kind of keep adding it.
But I could update the website.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, which is great. And thank you very much, Chris, because without Joe, I'm not sure how we would get that stuff up, or having you do it is perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's
David. Thanks, Lauri.
Thank you.
It looks good. Well done, guys.
Ron Fisher actually mentioned he had a book he wanted to share some information about. Are you there, Ron?
I am. Just trying to see if I can, yeah, I sent a message to, I've just finished reading this book called Neutron Stars, The Quest to Understand the Zombies of the Cosmos by Katja Moskvich. I found it absolutely fascinating because it really went into how the latest research is happening around the world to understand neutron stars. And it was a very interesting story how a PhD in Pisa, working at the laser interferometer site there. Her name is Marika Brancesi. She worked for several years to try to say if we are able to measure gravitational waves, then we need to set something up so we can hopefully, if we get an alert, track it through radio telescopes and visual telescopes and all the rest of it. And it was a really hard struggle for her and a few years of working with people to convince them to do that. And then it goes on to say that on August the 17th, 2017, she was at the hospital and she got a buzz to say that they had just alarmed and they were 100% sure that 2 neutron stars had collided and they had just measured the gravitational wave on the interferometer on the LIGO and the Virgo interferometers in North America and Italy. What made it even more interesting was that she had this network in place, and when it alarmed, it sent out these messages to astronomers around the world, who very quickly started aiming their scopes and narrowing down to where the signal came from. It ended up coming from the galaxy NGC 4993. And so they were able to start measuring the radio waves that were coming in, and then shortly thereafter were able for the first time to capture visual light from this massive neutron star collision. Not only capture the light, but they were able to measure for the first time that in all the material that was blown out when these things hit each other, the kilonova that was formed, they were able to measure the gold and the platinum and all the rest of it, which finally proved once and for all that the heavy metals come from that kind of a collision. So the whole book goes on to talk about all the latest research that's happening throughout the world, including the CHIME system up in the Okanagan. And that is playing a major role right now in trying to analyze what's happening with fast radio bursts. They're not sure what's causing them. They suspect they're coming from neutron stars or black holes colliding with each other, but lots of research going on there. And I just wanted to mention that they do have at CHIME Saturdays and Sundays from now until October open house up there. So they're welcoming people and giving tours if anybody's interested in going up there. And that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron.
Ron,
Sounds-
can you tell us the book again?
The book, I posted it. It's called Neutron Stars, The Quest to Understand the Zombies of the Cosmos by Katya Moskvich. It was published in 2020. It's fascinating reading.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, thanks.
Thanks very much. And one other item, I think John McDonald mentioned he had found his Jupiter video. It'd be great to see that.
Yeah, okay, I can show that. I'll just share the screen. Are you seeing it?
No, we're seeing a big black rectangle.
Oh,
Not sure.
let me stop the share and see what's wrong here.
We also have something to show, Brock. You'll put a challenge out tonight.
Okay, you should be seeing a dark screen right now.
Yes, and there is a play button. So, yep, perfect. That's awesome.
It's a pretty short video, as you can see, but it took a while to get it. What's neat, if you watch carefully, you'll see this is EO just coming out right there. You can see it while it's on the planet if you look carefully. And then you see it pop out, but you see a shadow the whole time.
It's so cool.
Wonderful.
Okay, that's it.
Nicely done. Pass it over to Dave Payne, who's taken up a challenge.
Yeah, Bill sent a challenge out to everyone. It was an interesting object,
Mhm.
but the timing wasn't great. Essentially, can you see my screen there?
Yep.
Okay. Essentially, this is a planetary nebula that was first discovered as a thought to be a galaxy, and it is very faint, and in Booties, and it was discovered as a galaxy in '92, but in '93, two people, Brian Skiff and Agnes Acker, determined that it was a planetary nebula, and provided this image is purported to be the first color image of it. But you can see quite clearly from this image that it's not really a galaxy. It's got a white dwarf in the middle. Doesn't really look like a galaxy. And in fact, it was determined that that's actually a binary system. So I don't know if that means there are two white dwarfs, or whether one is feeding the other one, or what's going on. But Bill put this out, and I saw it, and it was a one night last week where the night was starting to look good, and but it was forecast to cloud over. And I was just doing a pointing model on 2 telescopes, and move this over. And it turned out I only had about an hour and a half to image it before the clouds came over. So this image that is here took 56 hours of exposure. So 56 hours of clear nights. That's pretty much half a year here, I think. But,
It's a remote observatory in Spain.
Yeah, oh, I could go in Spain and do that if someone would pay my airfare. But here's what I did with my scope. I just took 2 10-minute images, each with a hydrogen alpha filter and O3 filter, and it was, the clouds were like, it wasn't cloudy, it was hazy. And this is with my big reflector, I think, but that's the object here. You can't really make out other than it's a little fuzz ball. Here's the annotated version. So when it was a galaxy, it was labeled PGC 87173, and now it's given I know that's pretty small, but now it's given another category for its planetary nebula. And I also took some exposures with much shorter focal length refractor, and it's right where my cursor is, if you can see it, just above my cursor. It's super tiny, it's super faint. You can actually see how poor the skies were by how
yeah, you got it. You have like an instant fog filter on.
Yeah. But there, I just zoomed in a little bit. There it is. And I can't really zoom in on this display, but you can actually make out the star in the middle of this.
Nice.
And there it is, annotated. But so I put this out, and Bill didn't respond.
But we all read your letter, Dave, and it was impressive.
It is impressive. The next night it was much nicer. I
Yeah,
was out the next night with my little 6-inch scope, and I was trying to see if I could figure out like the area, and then imagining that I was seeing it because it was so nice out. You picked the wrong night.
Well, I was imaging something else.
Yeah, I was just wanting to get the star field so that if I put my 20-inch on it, because I do know that people have seen this.
Yeah,
people have tracked it down with telescopes.
Wow.
And it's interesting because it isn't visible with an O3 filter visually.
Yeah, and that's really what picked it up for me. You can see there's a couple of galaxies in here, so you can sort of see it being mistaken for just another galaxy if you didn't spend time looking at it.
Because it's a pretty easy star field to find. Like the jumping off stars I needed were easy naked eye stars. I could just like zoom in on the area like within minutes. So it was,
Bill,
But thanks for the
Yeah.
challenge.
why did nobody figure out that it was a planetary nebula until recently? I mean. we've
well,
got
no, it was a year
100
after it was
100 years of
discovered.
photography.
Okay, so I'm on a email that's an IO group that actually Brian Skiff is on, the guy who determined, and he was going over the images with a 10 times loop. So he was like scanning the images visually and looking, and he noticed the central star on the digital sky survey image. And so that's when he put it over to the Acre woman to get some spectra of it and to see, because he just didn't believe that it could be a galaxy if there was this bright little blue star there. So that's what pointed in that direction. It's just nobody's ever bothered to try and image it because everybody goes for the big and showy stuff.
And Dave, what's that bright comet at the bottom of your picture?
It's a bright star.
Galaxy, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think actually, I think it is a galaxy. It looks like a galaxy.
Yeah.
Dave's muted if he's trying to tell us something.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a star because this is the wider field on the left, and I don't.
Oh.
Dave, is it actually clipped where it is, or can you scroll up inside the frame?
No, that's the entire frame.
That's the end of it. Eh? Okay.
Yeah, that's the entire. I didn't do any cropping on that one.
Yeah.
But when I go to the wider field and I do zoom in on that spot, you can indeed see the white dwarf in the center of it.
Yeah, we don't see. I'm looking for the two stars that are near what we think is a galaxy, but I don't see anything nearby them.
Well, if you want its label, there's NGC 5525 is fairly close to it.
Yeah, it could be that, I guess.
Galaxy. No, that's not it. I don't.
It's by two stars, right? We see there's a pair of stars nearby.
Might be
around 2 o'clock.
Stars. Might be these two stars. I think that's a reflection. Honestly.
Yeah, it could be artifact.
Nice work to manage.
No, it
to
was
get
fun.
out.
It was fun. So thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to see. I was thinking you'd go for it, Dave. And then there's that other one that I gave you, but that'll probably take till next year.
Yeah. That was just even worse timing than this one.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. That's everybody that I had on the list.
Did you
Does
get
anyone
that
else?
link? Brock, did you get that link that I sent you to my Zenfolio that I just put up an image? I sent you a message.
I don't know if I did.
Look on my Zen. I caught a double shadow transit of Jupiter. Gosh, almost 20 years ago now.
Oh yeah. You put it on Zenfolio.
Yeah, I thought it
Nicely
was
done.
already there. It kind of does the same thing that John's does.
Yeah.
Could you show that?
Yeah, I can, let me see if I can get that.
What I think is interesting with the shadow when they're double ones is how one, sometimes if it's the one that's closer to the planet, will pass the other moon's shadow as their orientation goes.
I have it
Because
up if you want me to share it.
Oh,
One
you do?
takes
Okay.
longer.
If you're there right now, I'll let you go because I was digging around.
Is that the one, Bill?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. And you could see the moons on the surface too.
Nice.
Nicely
Yeah.
done. What scope would you have? Oh, that's your 12.5. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
nice,
have that-
Bill.
I'll have that
Almost-
up at the
almost
center of the
photographic.
universe.
Yeah.
I'll have that up at the center of the universe for Astronomy Day.
It's interesting because it's obviously on the other side because there's no red spot. And the shadows are cast in the opposite direction from John's.
Yeah, so rotate it.
No, it's
I'll have-
probably,
It's a Newtonian view.
Mhm.
oh, okay, okay.
So north is down.
Really nice sketching, Bill.
Yeah, I didn't even know if that was going to happen. I was just looking at Jupiter and it's like, wait a second. It has two dots. It was cool how they were side by side, like a double star.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost easier to see them visibly than it is to take pictures of them because I've seen it and it really jumps out, and then you try to photograph it and it can be challenging.
I'm hoping that some of our wonderful astrophotographers will put in some of their work into the GA photography contest. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I guess there might be a winner, but who cares? It's just getting up the it's just getting up some of your gorgeous photographs up there. It is open. It is open now, and you can go and put your both sketches and landscape photography and deep field. Like there's about four different things that you can put in for. So I'm hoping some of you will.
Thanks for that, Lauri.
Sure.
I've got an image I could show Brock.
Okay, great.
So I don't think I've shown it
Marjie's
yet.
hand is up.
Oh, Marjie? Marjie had her hand up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have something I'd like to show, and then you can give me some input on it. Okay.
The moon.
That's not it. Okay, share screen. Click on desktop 1. And press share. Oh, maybe that will work. There we go. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So that's a building across the street from me. I am making some attempt to try to do orbital motion. Oopsie, go back here for a second. All right. So this is Venus. This is Venus. And this is on April the 14th. And then 2 days later, I'm trying, there it is again.
Oh,
So I'm trying to take the photograph in exactly the same place in the building.
Hmm.
Although this was a little closer, but trying to take the building. So if I kind of line it up, it ends up.
so Margie, if you use something like,
So I'm
I don't know,
taking it at the
if you-
same time too, the
yeah,
same time.
you-
Right.
yeah, if you're able to use something like Photoshop, you could put them on different layers, and you can change the transparency so you could align the building, and in fact you could even zoom in or out of the building to get the building the same size. There's a couple of ways of doing it, but I think you've done the right thing by just getting the elements together in each frame. You can do some post work to do what you want to do.
Yeah, and I have done a bit of post work, and it's interesting that for me, having never done this before, that I thought, well, certainly Venus is well, it appears to be lower in the sky.
Well, but this one looks like it's much brighter. Was it done earlier? Or was it exactly the same time?
It's
We've got-
exactly the same time. It's at 8. They're both at 8:30. But in
Okay.
order to see this one there was such it was a lot lighter, of course. It was lighter 2 days later, and in order for me to see the planet, I had to play with the lighting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would try and make the zoom the same size. Margie, it looks like you zoomed in on one.
I
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, you can try to make, I mean, to do it again, you should try to be consistent. But even if you can't, as I say, you can do some post work to change the scale a little bit. But yeah, if you're trying to do this as a thing that you want to record, then yeah, make sure you use the same focal length each time.
Yeah, okay. Because I want to draw it.
Hmm.
So far, both photographs are, they're in the same. If I line it up down to the building, they're in the same line. So what I'm wondering is if I maybe I need to do them like a week apart. Take the photograph a week apart.
Whenever the sky is clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Dave is actually absolutely right. Whenever you have a clear night, because you can throw data away, but
That's
you can't
true.
make stuff. You can't make stuff up, right? So
Yes.
That's true.
No.
Marjorie, the way that Luca Van Zella and Alistair.
I can't hear you, Dave.
The way that Luca Van Zella and Alistair Ling do these things is they have a way of mounting their tripod on a clamp on the balcony so that you can put the camera back in precisely the same place every time.
Ah,
mhm.
okay, because I have a tripod.
So same
Yeah.
same place and same focal length. That's what you want.
Right. Okay. Great. Because you see, I can't at this if I'm just looking at orbital motion of a planet, I can't there aren't any stars that I can see at that point. So I thought, all right, I'll use a building.
Yeah. So the other thing to do also, Margie, is try to take different exposures just in case the exposure, if you only do one, it may be either too bright or too dark. So
Yeah.
try a mixture. Again, you can get a bunch of data, throw some away if you want.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
just put 3 little marks on your patio or balcony. So you put the tripod in exactly the same spot each time.
Okay.
And then later, even if there's nothing in the background, if you've got the same framing of the sky, you can just put a grid over it, like graph paper, idea lines, and then you can just see where it goes
Okay.
in that grid.
If you use the same focal length and frame the building the same way every shot with the same zoom, you'll get good data.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That was good.
That's really good citizen science. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm doing the Explore the Universe program. So since there's, I can't get out and see anything, but I can see Venus. So I thought, well, we'll try that.
Yeah,
Very
excellent.
good.
How was the Explore the Universe crowd at Cattle Point last week? Did many people go?
Oh, Jill can tell you. I think Jill and Marianne and Brenda were there. Jill can tell you.
Yep, it was pretty sparse and it was freezing cold. I haven't been so cold since January. It was awful. But I saw series, which is what I was trying for, and Brenda saw some stuff that she was looking for. So it was good. It was fun.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jill. I live vicariously through her.
Yes.
I don't get to do a lot of it myself, so.
Now, I think Ken was saying he had an image he wanted to share. So you still there, Ken?
Yeah, I don't think I've shown this one yet, but we'll see what I can do. Yeah. So this is the Bodes and Cigar Galaxy.
Very nice.
They're about 12 million light years away. The Bodes is about 45,000 light years across. And the cigar would be about 8,500. I think the Bodes has about 250 billion stars in it. And I'm not sure the cigar, no, it has about 18,500.
Ken, is this LRGB or you have narrowband running?
It's LRGB, but I should have had a filter on it, I think, to stop the bloating.
Mm-hmm. And to get maybe some more H alpha, maybe in the cigar.
Yeah. So anyway, for a first crack at it, I think it's all right. I see a lot of problems with it, like I do all my images.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting how the weather can really change the bloating. I mean, it probably wasn't absolutely clear or transparent.
Yeah. Well, it's also Steve from Ontario Telescopes there explained a bunch of it to me, and there's a filter on the way that should help with it. I'm not sure whether it's an IR cut filter or the IR cut may be used for planetary, is it?
Well, if you have a like normally any of the quote raw sensors need IR cut unless it's built into the window of the camera, but often they're not actually.
Yeah.
If it's full spectrum, you need an IR cut.
And that should cut down the bloating and stuff like that.
It'll cut the bloating because it's the IR that creates the looming effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Which telescope were you using, Ken?
This was the ASCAR.
Okay.
107 PHQ. And
you're running the 2600 or
2600 MC, yes.
Yeah.
And Skywatcher HQ6 mount.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a Ken Burns on the Horsehead Nebula and Flame Nebula here.
All right.
That's great.
How did you do that, Ken? With Lightroom or?
No, it's in Final Cut Pro.
Okay.
And it's the Ken Burns program. And the picture I did it on is that one there.
Nice image.
Yeah.
And that's all I have for you.
When does
very
your
nice.
when does your big telescope arrive?
I've got it all set up here now. There's a couple more pieces. I need longer cords for it and that. So they should be here Wednesday. And otherwise it's all focused in and everything. And
Ken, did you get the 8 or the 925? I can't remember now.
I went for the 8. You know, it seemed like a sensible thing to do, but I'm kind of kicking myself now, but I keep on telling myself, well, you just saved $2,000.
You just lost 1.5 inches.
And there's a larger telescope up on the hill there if we ever get up to it.
Right.
True.
On the 29th, Ken.
Hey,
Yeah.
I've only waited about 3 years for it.
Well, great. Thanks, everyone.
I will be host next week. And we're getting towards the end of the season. We've got speakers for the 3 weeks in May. So it's next week and May 1st that we kind of have polls, and let's get, this was great, you guys. That was lots of good topics came up.
Anybody else, or should we sign off and chat next week?
I thought I saw one hand up before we flashed back, but maybe I was just
I was
hallucinating.
tapping.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, it looked like you had your hand up.
Okay. Well, thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.